Hey everyone. Since I've been focusing on live streaming over the past couple years, it's been a while since I actually built and deployed a real working software project that people can use. So in this video, I'm going to vibe code an entire software project from an idea that I came up with, and I'm going to use up-to-date OpenAI technologies, Claude Code, and then the sponsor of this video, CodeRabbit, to help me build it. If you don't know, CodeRabbit's an AI platform and tool that helps automate the code review process. So we'll be hooking that up to GitHub. If you want to try it out for free, you can click the link in the description. Okay, so I think the best software ideas come from a real world problem you experience. So I've had this problem for a while where I either, as a content creator, get hate on the internet that I don't want to see, or I'm also just using social media platforms and there's certain things that pop up in my algorithm or feed that I don't want to see, that I constantly see over and over. So I thought I would build a software project, in this case, a browser extension that will in real time on all different social media platforms, change the document object model and remove all of the stuff I don't want to see. Now, before I go into my workflow and show you how I built this, let me just give you a quick demo so you kind of can comprehend what I'm talking about here. So here's an example of the browser extension I'm going to build in this. We have a few different modes for filtering content. We have blur mode, hidden mode, remove mode. Blur and hidden will kind of hide the content, where remove will remove it completely from your feeds. We have different platform toggles, and this works across tabs, so you could toggle on multiple platforms and filter for multiple platforms. And then we also have content categories. So if you don't want to see certain kinds of content like politics or religion or sports, you could filter that out from social media completely. You could also filter posts containing certain words or posts from certain accounts. Now, I think there's a lot of good use cases for this. For example, on Twitter, I'm constantly recommended accounts and posts from things I don't even follow and that I don't want to see at all. So let me just show you how this works. Now, I have nothing against any of the people I'm going to be filtering out here. I just want to show you an example. So top thing says Aiden Ross on here. Let's say I don't want to see Aiden Ross anymore, so I'm going to put the word Aiden. And now it's blurred because I'm in blur mode. If I want to hover over it, I could still see what's going on. However, if I were to go into remove mode, for example, and then I don't want to see anything about Solana, for example, I could go down here. I could type in the word Solana, and that will automatically be removed from my social media feed. So you can kind of see how this works. I can basically filter out any kind of content I want. If I don't want to see XQC, I could filter that out. And then if you go to a different social media platform, as long as it's toggled, it's going to filter out all of the content. So those are the basics of this browser extension. And now let's go into building it. All right, so to start out, I made an initial folder for the browser extension and added all the files I'd need for a browser extension. I added them all to staging, and I've added an initial commit that we're going to push to GitHub. So this should be pushed up to GitHub now. When I refresh, we could see all of these initial files are here. So here we have all the basic files associated with the browser extension. They're completely blank, and we want to hook this repository up to CodeRabbit. So you're going to head over to CodeRabbit, you sign in with GitHub, and you just go to repositories where you could search the repository you want to use CodeRabbit with. So in this case, it's Bubblify. Type that in. I've already hooked it up. And then you're going to want to get it installed into VS Code as well. So you're going to have this VS Code extension. You could go over to extensions. You could just type in CodeRabbit. You could find it right here, install it. And then you'll have this little section on the left side, this icon for CodeRabbit. And this is how we're going to do version control now. It makes it a lot better and it handles everything for us. So we're going to be using that AI tooling as well as GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude Code, all the AI tools we could ask for to build this project without putting in a lot of work like we used to. So for a manifest JSON, let's just use Copilot, generates basic manifest file. And here we go. It generates a basic file for us and we can continue to work from there. And now if we go over to CodeRabbit, we can look that there's changes to manifest. And this is how we can do version control extremely easily. So let's review the changes for manifest JSON. It's reviewing it right now, setting it up, analyzing the changes. So essentially the whole workflow I'm using to build this software breaks down to this. discussions with Claude and ChatGPT. What are the best decisions? Should I make a feature this way or should I make it that way? What are the pros and cons? I have full discussions with them. I can also use AI agents on those platforms like, hey, can you try implementing this feature? And I could look at the code and see if it's useful or not. For super small changes, I can just use CodePilot and generate the code within VS Code. But for bigger changes, I can ask ChatGPT or Claude, get the code, plug it in, see if it's good, see if I like it. Sometimes it might not be, and I'll have to ask in different ways or do a few different things, or maybe even use my brain a couple times. But that's generally it. And then once I'm happy with some code, I can head over to CodeRabbit, analyze all the changes I'm going to push up to GitHub, get some feedback, what can be improved, anything better, kind of like a final check before I push to GitHub. And that's basically how I'm going to be building the project. Also, I moved my camera so you guys could see more clearly. This is the CodeRabbit icon I was talking about, and you would see the changes here. Anyway, basically how I start my software projects is I go to ChatGPT and I discuss these ideas. I talk to ChatGPT and I talk to Claude separately about this. I came up with the idea originally just for live stream feed to block hate that I don't want to see. I talked for a while, and ChatGPT actually helped me come up with the idea for just filtering content from a bunch of different social media in general, which I think is a lot more useful than what I was going for originally. So the whole basis of the code base is going to be, we need a user interface that looks good and it's easy to use and easy to understand, just super intuitive. And then besides that, all of the other code is going to be basically about mutation observers, just mutating the DOM. Some of these social media platforms render after the site actually appears. So we're going to have to use these, and we're going to have to target selectors on the DOM that I'm going to have to manually go and get from each platform, hard code into the extension, and then we're going to have to target those and either blur, hide, or remove them. So right now our manifest is extremely basic and pretty much useless. This is the manifest we're actually going to need, and we're going to need to be able to run this browser extension on all of the social media platforms we want to target. So I had ChatGPT list all the major social media platforms. I chose from these ones. I think these are the most valuable, at least in my case. These are some of the most popular ones we're going to want to filter from. We're going to run our JavaScript from content.js. So this is going to handle all of the major behind the scenes JavaScript happening to actually modify the DOM on those sites. Content.js will do that. So my user interface is going to be popup.html. And this is basically what I want the HTML to look like, which I generated through ChatGPT and Claude, just discussing what I wanted a bunch of times. We're going to have different toggles and inputs for usernames, banned words. We're going to toggle the social media on and off, and we're going to have categories. Pretty self-explanatory. So we have these bulk HTML things for platform toggles, content category toggles, and then we have sections down here for entering in banned words or banned username accounts. I also asked ChatGPT and Claude to generate some modern, good-looking styles. I told it I want it to be blue and white. So this is what I got. This is all clearly AI generated, super condensed. Obviously, I didn't write all of this myself. So this is targeting all of that HTML and adding the basic styles. So once we have our manifest JSON with all the sites that we want to use it on, and then we have our HTML, CSS, we have our icons, which ChatGPT generated the icon safety bubble for the internet concept. So this is a bubble. We can go over and upload this to Chrome extensions, and then we can actually use the extension or see what it looks like at least. So this is just the HTML and CSS. This is exactly what I want it to look like, but there's obviously going to be no functionality or anything happening at the moment because we didn't add any functionality. You can see if I refresh or if I close it and open it, the toggles don't even stay. So we need popup.js to actually have functionality in this little user interface for things to actually happen. All right, so now that we have our basic user interface, let's go back over to CodeRabbit and let's review all those changes so we can commit. Okay, so here we can already see that something is happening. We have an issue in popup.html, and it says that we have duplicate IDs across free and pro panels that will break JavaScript. In manifest.json, we have an issue for Apex domains missing matches. They won't run on root domains. So everything looks good there. Those are some suggestions I'll consider down the road. Fixing the IDs to classes, that's probably a good idea. I don't want to do that at the moment though. So I'm just going to add these, git commit, add basic user interface, and then let's push up to GitHub. Let's make sure those changes just got pushed. Looks like they did, which looks good. We can see all the code here, nice. So now let's move over to some of our other files and let's check out a new branch. So let's do git checkout B, and then we'll do feature/popup.js. And now we're on a different branch for our feature, and let's add some functionality to our extension. So here we have some code I generated from talking to Claude. This is just initial variable setup for our extension. So we're going to need an array for the banned words, an array for the banned accounts. We're going to need platform toggles already set to false. When the extension starts, everything's false, and then you could toggle on and off. Categories with different words, so all the categories we want to include. And then we're going to display the different user interfaces for free user interface, pro user interface. And then within here, we have all of these listeners for different actions on our extension that do different things. Essentially, this file is for all the button functionality of the user interface of the browser extension, right? So this is actually going to make things happen when we click buttons, we toggle on, for example, on a platform, it's going to change the variable. If we toggle Facebook, it's going to change this to true. And then that data in turn will be stored in local storage, because this extension will run on local storage, Chrome storage. And then our other files will be able to access or listen to Chrome local storage changes and make things happen to the DOM on social media. Okay, so we got our pop-up.js. Let's go back over to CodeRabbit and review these changes. So I'm going through some of these concerns, like, for example, if they don't have a license key for the pro version, I'm doing like a terrible alert. It says this is a bad user experience. I mean, this is accurate, right? And it actually suggests a better solution here, which is actually give it a HTML in the user interface, status instead, with maybe I could add red coloring. So as you can see, CodeRabbit's AI just completely fixed all of that for me. So I'm just going to hit check mark on that, and then we can move on to any other issues that we need to resolve here. And now what's nice about CodeRabbit is once you hook it up to your GitHub repository for pull requests, there's actually a CodeRabbit AI bot that will make comments and talk about these pull requests. So it helps you review these pull requests and merge them into your base branch. And you can see directly on GitHub how CodeRabbit works. All I put in this pull request is added functionality to browser extension UI. CodeRabbit summarizes every single thing. I don't even have to write it out. We've got the new features with all of this stuff that I actually added and didn't discuss. So it kind of explains everything for me. And then it's going to review this pull request and make sure it's good to merge into my main branch all by itself. So this is really automation for the entire Git experience. And this is really nice to have, especially if you're working on a big project with multiple other people. So while CodeRabbit's reviewing that PR, we can go back to our project and we can do git checkout main. We're back on our main branch, and then we can do git checkout -b. Let's do feature/content.js. We're going to do the same thing here where we're going to add the code for our content.js now, all from, ChatGPT, Claude code. This is the bulk of the code for the extension. It's going to have the same kind of variables here. These communicate through Chrome local storage once again. And then on load, we're going to be calling these functions depending on which platforms are toggled. And these are going to censor and filter those sites. So each of these functions, this file will be split up into groups for each function. So let's go to the Twitter function, for example, and just show you how it works. So I separated through comments, and here's the Twitter censorship function where we're going to have a mutation observer. We're going to get those selectors for tweets that we want to filter out, for example, and we're going to scan the existing tweets, and then we're going to call a function to censor them in different ways, like blurring or removing them completely from the DOM. And each social media platform here, I have to talk to ChatGPT and Claude separately, prompting them. manually going to the sites, getting the HTML I need for the selectors, and then coming up with a strategy to actually censor these. I have a main censorship function and filtering function, but in general, they all function somewhat similarly. They go through, they find the content I want to filter, and then they call the function with it. So let's go ahead to CodeRabbit here and start reviewing these changes. While this happens, let's go back to GitHub and see what's going on. On CodeRabbit, we have an entire walkthrough of everything implemented in this PR. They go through literally everything added. Look at this. They have a whole diagram of what's going on. This is pretty incredible. They've even got a poem here about it. It's also going to go through the entire pull request and break it down bit by bit, coming up with potential issues, things I want to fix that I will definitely need to fix. And then at the end, if there's no conflicts, we can just merge this into our main project. Okay, so our review of content.js looks good. We have a couple issues we just have to resolve. Looks like we got a typo here, so let's just fix that with AI. Performance issue, let's just fix that with AI. Let's just fix everything with AI because we're lazy. Okay, everything looks good. So let's just add this all to staging, add content.js, git push origin feature / content.js. That's getting pushed. Let's go over to content.js, add content.js because CodeRabbit will do everything, obviously. And let's just create our pull request. So if we go over to the CodeRabbit dashboard, this is where it actually gets interesting because as you make PRs, CodeRabbit's going to learn from your project and get better and better as it goes. Okay, and then to finish up our project, we're just going to add the code for our background.js file, which is basically the brain of the browser extension. It handles communication between content.js, pop-up.js, kind of handles everything that's going on with event listener changes, as well as making sure this data permeates and changes permeate across different tabs. So if I'm looking at Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all these different things, and I want my extension to be running on all of them, and the toggles and the decisions I'm making in the user interface to translate to other tabs, I'm going to need background.js to handle all of this. This is all handled once again through Chrome. This is all handled once again through Chrome local storage. So everything just has an event listener for every single kind of data we could have here. We have all these variables again. And then you can see the meat and potatoes of this file is that we're going to send this information to all tabs, right? So when the words are updated for banned words, we're broadcasting to all of the tabs. You can see tabs for each, sends all that information, sends it for the accounts, sends it for the toggles, everything like that. So once we have our background.js, that's pretty much it for the entire extension. We can now review that new file, review all changes here, wait for CodeRabbit to get these done, and then we could push to GitHub. So since I don't want this video to be too long, I'm not going to go into all of the detailed conversations that I have with ChatGPT and Claude as I built this application, and I can't cover every single individual piece of code. I've been live streaming building this over the past couple of weeks, and I have dozens of conversations with ChatGPT and Claude using their AI agent tools, trying to implement features. A lot of times they get it wrong. I have to reprompt in many different ways, and I have full-fledged conversations about the smallest details, like how much memory does my program use at this point? If I add this, is this going to be sustainable? Is this a good idea? Should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? List the pros and cons for me. For me, there's a lot of things I know and a lot of things I don't know. I was using Claude for a while, but since GPT-5 came out, I'm usually using ChatGPT now. And I gotta say, it knows a lot more about everything than I do. So I kind of have conversations about nearly everything, not even in just coding, but also in my personal life, whether it's for dieting, health routine. All in all, my workflow at this point of building a real software project is to use AI tools. So I use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever has the best model at the time. I use their AI agents. I've tried out other AI agents, but I stick with OpenAI technologies. I pretty much have full conversations, copy and paste code, make sure it works, run it. If there's really small things, I can use Copilot and use my brain a little bit. And then before I push to GitHub, I use CodeRabbit to check over everything, get feedback, And then for pull requests, documentation, all that stuff, CodeRabbit handles all of that stuff for me as well. Do I code myself at all anymore compared to how I used to code in 2015, 2016, 2017? No, nothing like it. I barely even have to try. I'm more just having conversations. I'm prompt engineering. I'm vibe coding the entire time. Because why wouldn't I? I can get things done 10 times faster by using AI tools. Anyone that thinks it's better to do things on your own and use your own brain, I mean, go ahead. But I think AI tooling is a huge advantage in every way. Everyone's going to be using it if they want to be competitive at building software or coding right now. And yes, knowing how to code comes in handy because I have 3,000 plus lines in this browser extension. And if I didn't have the background knowledge I had from getting a college education in computer science and programming for a decade, I probably wouldn't be able to have these full-fledged conversations. I wouldn't even know what they're talking about, and I'd have to ask questions about everything, and I wouldn't know how to plug in code and know kind of what direction to go in. So I guess that's the biggest advantage of actually educating yourself in programming. So this extension's wrapping up. I think it's a pretty cool idea. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If it's out by the time I post this video, I'll put it as a link in the description. Also, thank you CodeRabbit for sponsoring this video, and you guys could check them out and try it for free at the link in the description as well. Let me know what videos you guys want to see next, and until next time, I'll see you later. Peace.